Iran's foreign minister has reiterated strongly that Tehran is warning Israel to that they are not going to stand by if Israel decides to attack, that they will come back with stronger defense actions. And so this comes as the U.S. and Israel came closer to a consensus on the scope of Jerusalem's potential retaliatory strike. Well, what is the latest? Where is all of this headed? Joining me now to discuss this is Chris Mitchell. He's the Middle East Bureau Chief for CBN News. Chris, welcome back to Washington Watch. Always great to have you, my friend.
Great to be with you again, Jody, and great to see you in person there in Washington at the FRC event last week.
Absolutely. I cannot tell you how thrilled we were. You actually surprised me. I didn't know you were going to be showing up, and you kind of snuck up behind me there at the Pray Vote Stand Summit. But man, what an absolute honor to have you there. I can't tell you, and I heard from so many. You are respected here at FRC for sure, but far, far beyond. All right, let's talk about what's happening in Israel. Where do things stand right now? We've had the attack from Iran, and everyone's kind of waited on bated breath as to what Israel's response will be. What's the latest?
Well, as you said, that attack was on October 1st, and that's when literally millions of Israelis went into bomb shelters. I was one of those. I was actually in Jerusalem at the time, and I went into the Dan Panorama and sought shelter. 181 ballistic missiles were fired. That's the second attack, direct one from Iran. The first one on April 13th, when about 350 projectiles were fired. 99% of those were shot down. Almost all of the ballistic missiles were shot down as well by Israel's anti-missile defense, either the Iron Dome, David Sling, or the Arrow anti-missile defense systems. So right now, everybody's waiting to see exactly what's going to happen. As you said, apparently, reportedly, the U.S. and Biden and Netanyahu have actually spoken directly for the first time in several weeks, and they're reportedly getting closer to agreement on how what Israel's response should be. Also, reportedly, some sort of compensation package is being offered by the United States to Israel, and whether that includes armaments and/or diplomatic support exactly remains to be seen. But right now, Jody, actually, Israel is commemorating Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, found in Leviticus chapter 16. And for the first time since the 1973 Yom Kippur war, Israel is at war right now. And whether or not, as you mentioned as well, the proportionate, what that means exactly, how proportionate will Israel's response be remains to be seen. What they did in April, and you may remember what President Biden said to Netanyahu at the time, because most of all those projectiles were fired down. He said, you've got to win, take a win. But Israel's response is going to be much more robust this time. Whether or not it's going to include the nuclear facilities and the oil facilities is a big question. Or is it going to attack, some of the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, some intelligence facilities, or, Jody, I've even heard some people speculate trying to really decapitate the leadership of Iran. That would be something many people would appreciate. Not only many of the people of Iran, but many of the nations in the Middle East.
Well, you put out there a lot of potential options that's on the table for the leadership of Israel. Having been on Armed Services Committee and so forth during some of my time in Congress, of course, all of us have been concerned forever with the nuclear development that is taking place in Iran, and the fact that could be majorly on the table is certainly not a surprise, but it would be a huge blow, literally and figuratively, I suppose. But what do you kind of think what's going to happen? I know you really don't know. No one really knows. Israel is so great at keeping secret and surprises. But the Security Cabinet convened with the Prime Minister yesterday and determining what's going to happen. You mentioned a lot of options. Do you have a imagination in terms of your guess?
Well, first of all, my understanding is that they didn't take a vote at that security cabinet, so it still remains to be seen exactly what they'll be voting on. And then when they vote, perhaps the retaliation will be swift. and maybe the United States may not understand exactly or to the full extent exactly what Israel has in mind. They seem to have kept the U.S. Not informed until very shortly before, for example, the strike against Hassan Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah. My projections, Jody, is that this will be a important and a significant blow to Iran. But I think also you need to realize the timing. We're just a few weeks away from the U.S. election, and perhaps Israel feels like this is maybe not the first and only opportunity they'll have to strike Iran, whether it's the nuclear facilities or the oil facilities. Certainly, they have the option right now because of what Iran has done. Two major attacks against the Jewish state. And what they did in April was a very minor response to an air raid radar installation near one of the nuclear facilities. So we will see. I think this may not be the first attack against Iran. That's my projection.
Yeah, and what are we hearing real quickly about there's reports out there of that the IDF has discovered some evidence that Hezbollah was actually planning another attack bigger than the October 7th one. Any information about what that was all about?
Yes, Jody, they found tons of evidence. They found munitions. They found maps. They found intelligence of what they planned. It was called Conquest, the Galilee. Thousands of Hezbollah fighters were meant to go through tunnels. We were in one of those tunnels about 3 or 4 years ago, one of the 6 that were discovered at the time. But they had a plan to kidnap, kill, murder, take over villages on the northern border, much bigger than what happened on October 7th with Hamas. That's exactly what they found. And they're continuing to find more munitions there in southern Lebanon. And just to add one other note, Jody, as I said, Jewish people around the world, as well as in Israel, are commemorating Yom Kippur, asking for forgiveness. And I would say that it's a great reminder to pray for Israel, to pray for the Jewish people, for their protection as they go through the darkest hour since the Holocaust.
Well, that was certainly how I was going to end it, calling on people to pray for Israel as they celebrate Yom Kippur, but also just all the circumstances that they now are in. Chris Mitchell, Middle East Bureau Chief with CBN News, thank you as always for joining us and for providing your insight. Stay safe. God bless you, and know that our prayers are with you and all of Israel.
Thanks, Jody.